Mark, it's a show that's in dangerous territory.
Yeah.
I'm walking downstairs. Brew goes into Schlereth's office where he does his radio show. I said, Brew, what are you doing? He says, I've got to get one of Schlereth's Red Bulls.
I'm feeling it, too.
You're usually having chamomile tea, which you have to go to sleep, and now we're on the other end of the spectrum.
I don't think I'm going to finish this. I can feel it.
We're on the eve of one of the most special events in sports. NBA Finals Game 7.
We're the eve of the eve.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Like
double eve.
20 in the league's history, just one. This will be the first one in almost a decade. You go a long time without having this.
And the last several have been close. Actually, the one.
True. They're all close.
Yeah, except for, 1974?
Right. Dayton, since the merger, they're all close.
Here we go.
Wow.
As soon as since the merger.
That's why I said Brew's on Red Bull.
We gotta go.
I get to do some history
since
stuff.
the merger. We're starting today's show with Brew's Pacers. Slow start. Got a little nervous. Looked bad, and then the Pacers came alive. They went on a 68-32 run to close out the first half, led by 31 at one point in the game. And Halliburton's calf looked more than fine. It looked like it was never an injury at all. No comment. Brew, you called it. Yet another perfect prediction from you.
Well, look, Wilds, this is why I switched my pick at 2-2, I might add. Not 3-1. After a loss, I switched my pick.
As the most famous pick switches have happened after a loss.
Knicks was, too, after a loss. I credit him that. I wouldn't have done it if it was 3-1.
Yeah.
Pacers. It would have just been ridiculous. But I did it so that when they reached the brink of winning their first NBA title, I could give a boisterous, full-throated, no holds barred, knockdown! That's what I'm talking about.
You switching has been just great for your spirit and the show.
I'm telling you, I was really torn. I really was, and now I feel good. All right, anyway, what a performance. Not only by the Pacers, but by the Bud list. All three, T.J. McConnell, Rick Carlisle, and Tyrese Halliburton all had great nights, and Halliburton played really well. That was one of his best games in the series.
Yeah.
And
seemed to be moving great, too.
He didn't. I mean, I think he was hurt. Obviously, I don't think the doctors lied about that. But you would not know it.
No.
They took him off the ball. For the most part, he wasn't bringing the ball up to take a little strain off of him. But he played well. McConnell, obviously, and Carlisle did a great job. But the key, I said going in, the key was don't turn the ball over. Yep. They only had 11 turnovers. They only had 2 in the first half. Right. The game was essentially decided in the first half. They only had 2 turnovers. I think they had 7 through 3 quarters when it was definitely over.
Actually, one of the box scores I had them give me was through 3 quarters.
Because that was the game.
That's the through 3 quarters are the only stats that matter.
That's all that matters. And they didn't turn it over much. And then when they did, they didn't let OKC get out and run because OKC's offense, obviously they're a well-balanced team, but offensively in the half court, they got Shea, who's pretty much unstoppable, but if you keep them from scoring in transition and off of your turnovers, then you can do pretty well against their half-court defense. And so that was one of the keys, and because Indiana didn't shoot that way. They shot 41%. But they didn't turn the ball over.
So Brew asked me right before we went on the air, he's like, I know you picked Oklahoma City, but were you shocked by last night? And he was being earnest. And I was like, I was shocked by last night. I'm stunned. And I have been saying my confidence in the Thunder is more about respect to the Thunder than disrespect to the Pacers. But at this point, I must admit, unintentionally, it's been disrespect to the Pacers because I laid out yesterday, all right, if the Pacers are going to win, here are all of the things that have to go their way. Almost none of them happened. I was like, Miles Turner, finally, he's 1 for 9. Benedict Mathurin, have a big game. Right. He's 1 for 6. The Pacers had one guy score 20. And that was Obi Toppin, who was the only guy who was left in kind of in the garbage time. So, when the game de facto ended, Nobody had more than 17 for the Pacers. The Pacers' defense doing this to Oklahoma City is shocking to me. I understand, and on the Oklahoma City side of things, in their defense, so to speak, this has been a line-for-line, game-for-game recreation of the Nuggets series. Lose game 1 on a buzzer beater. Blow them out in game 2. Lose game 3 resoundingly. Win game 4 in kind of clutch fashion. And game 5, win, not necessarily in clutch fashion, but win kind of wire to wire. And then game 6, lose badly. And that was this series and the Nuggets series, so maybe they will have the same ending. But this postseason, the Pacers are as good as the Thunder. They are both 15-7. They have both faced elimination one time. They have, they have played each other in this series. The offensive rating for one team is 109.5, and for the other team is 110.5. For this 2-month stretch, and I would argue personally, well, you guys might disagree, I think the Pacers have had the slightly harder path.
I was going to say it's right there.
Yeah, round 1, Grizzlies or Bucks. I think the Bucks are better. Round 2, Cavs, Nuggets. The Cavs were the better regular season team. They were banged up. Round 3, Knicks, Timberwolves. To me, that's a toss-up. There is the respect has to be given. And the Pacers, while I was watching that game, I kept thinking about Matherin's quote. And Mathurin finally has a quote. When I hear Mathurin quote, I don't think of him being like, LeBron ain't better than me. I think of what he said before Game 6, when he was like, essentially, I'm not saying I'm going to score a bunch. I am saying we are going to dive for every loose ball. We're going to give all-out effort. And the Pacers' execution and effort and speed, and they were down 10-2. And then it was a 62-32 run the rest of the half. It was stunning. Now I've been wrong about basically everything in these playoffs. Not for lack of trying or lack of watching. You do. But yeah, I guess. But I'm stunned by what we saw last night.
Brew, 8 players are now averaging double-digit points for the Pacers.
That's wild.
This is just the ultimate team. You don't know where it's going to come from, and it's a lot of times when you have players saying that, it just feels a little bit like sports talk. It's like, it doesn't
just
matter.
Saying
but
the right thing.
Yeah, but it actually is true with this team. Like, oh, TJ's playing. Obi Toppin's hitting threes. Here's the other stat I wanted to throw at you to get your reaction from Tom Havistro, who just does a great job. Ball movement data, Pacers passed the ball 107 more times than Oklahoma City last night. So it just feels like, not that OKC is a one-man show, but it feels like the Pacers are acting more as a team right now.
Yeah, and that's how they play. That's their style of play. Nobody dominates the ball. OKC is a lot of ISO for Shea, or Jalen goes ISO. So the passing numbers aren't surprising to me. I was on the Herd earlier, and Colin said, and I think some other commentators have said this or written this, that this would be the most unusual NBA champion ever if Indiana wins it. And I compared them to the only 2 teams in recent memory, modern basketball, to win the championship without like all-time great superstar or stars leading them. And that was the 79 Supersonics,
which
Seattle.
was a weird team.
Yep. And the 04 Detroit Pistons. But the Pistons, Chauncey Billups was a phenomenal high school prospect and college prospect. He was a 3rd pick in the draft. He just started his career very disappointingly, but became a really great player. She was phenomenal at UNC, North Carolina, was great in Portland. Like, they had guys you knew were uber talented, who just for whatever reason hadn't really fulfilled their potential.
2 Hall of Famers, right? Am I missing a Hall of Famer?
Ben Wallace.
Ben and Chauncey, right?
Ben Chauncey.
Rashid's not in? I would assume.
No, Rashid's not in.
And Larry Brown, the coach, which is kind of in line with Carlisle.
And
Drew,
so
this would be the most shocking.
This
would be the most shocking upset in not only NBA history. It's on the short list in sports.
I do disagree with that.
But,
I understand the odds makers saying it's the biggest upsetter. I think, and it's Rick Carlisle, I think the Dallas over Miami was bigger, and I think the 04 Pistons over the Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton Lakers was bigger.
So for whatever it's worth,
not for the odds,
Miami, Dallas, Miami was the exact same favorite over Dallas as Oklahoma City was over Miami the next year. That's a fact. Minus 175 plus 155. Yeah. I know you're not into the gambling.
I'm just looking at
you
have LeBron, Wade, and Bosh.
But in the run-up, it was because Dallas had swept Kobe's Lakers, who were the two-time defending champs.
They had played well.
They had played well. And so this would be so stunning. And they are a game, like at this point it wouldn't be stunning. No. They have to win one game. But the totality of it, to me, would be stunning.
All right, the once dominant Thunder failed to meet the moment. SGA had 21, also had 8 turnovers. Jalen scored 24 fewer points than Game 5, and Chet had 4 more points than I did. I didn't play. Brew, your reaction?
Look, obviously Indiana deserves a ton of credit. They were great. But OKC contributed to this. Like, all series long, even the games they've lost, the defense has been phenomenal, right? Their hands have been active. Like, it's been, Indiana's just been struggling not to turn the ball over. And you saw none of that last night. Like, they just looked like a regular team defensively last night. They weren't as aggressive, weren't as active. And this is where, to me, this was their youth showing. Because they've never been in a, players and coaches will tell you the hardest game in a playoff series is the closeout game. If you're the team that's winning and you got to close somebody out, they don't know that. They got Alex Caruso won a championship. That was in the bubble. There were no fans, so it's different. So they look to me like a team that have been listening all the last few days about how they're about to win the championship. They're about to be this all-time great team. And the best player on the other team, I doubt they thought he wouldn't play, but they probably thought he'd be severely hampered. And I think that was smart. I bet Indiana knew, man, he's playing. But it was smart of them to leave it as a game-time decision and leave it out there for, he might play, but he might not be,
Certainly we didn't expect him to play better.
Right, and he was better. There's no
he's
doubt.
Hurt and also better somehow.
Yeah, and so I just think that OKC played a large role in this. Now, to their credit, they have bounced back. You mentioned it against Denver. They got blown out by Minnesota by 40 and came back and won the next 2. So you can't write them out. But last night, that was, I won't say as much them as it was the Pacers, but that was a lot of OKC just not showing up.
With the game through 3 quarters, they had 6 assists. That's a stunning number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 6 to 21 assists. Not that that's everything, but that's like a wow number. Here's why I'd be concerned if I were Oklahoma City. Halftime was a moment to reset. Now, maybe they don't come back and win. They're down 22. But as far as, focused on planning the celebration, not down 22 at the half. Yeah. We saw them.
22 is not over.
It's not over, but it's also, you're no longer thinking about where we're partying tonight. Yeah. You're like, okay, we've got work to do. This team was down, 29 to Memphis? Right. I understand it's Memphis, and came back in that game when Ja got hurt. Here are their opening 7 possessions of the second half when Indiana could not make a basket. Indiana scores 0 points. Dort missed 3. Dort missed 3. Shea turnover. J-Dub missed 3. Caruso blocked at the rim. Chet missed 3. Dort missed 3. 7 possessions, 0 Shea shots, only 1 shot inside the arc, and it got blocked by, I think, Miles Turner. It was Caruso, and the game's over. You know what I mean? Because you're down 22 at the half is one thing. Down 24 because Indiana eventually scored with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you've done nothing. So that's concerning to me. That they never had even a slight push. You know what I mean? Like they cut it to 11, and then the other team hits a couple threes and it's over. Didn't see that. And here's the other thing. Sorry, KW. We are 48 minutes away from a very tough Chet conversation. Chet Holmgren in these finals, 11 points per game on shooting splits of 35 from the field, 12 from 3. It is the worst, at least medium.
12% from 3?
He's shooting 12% from 3.
That's not good. I didn't realize
It is the only player to take at least 15 threes in a finals in league history and shoot worse than 12% is Larry Johnson for the 99 Knicks. Fresh off the 4-point play, he was feeling himself, and then he couldn't hit his threes.
Can I say something about Chet and tell me if this has hit your radar? When Chet misses a shot,
his body language,
he shrinks. So, I'm like, Chet, buddy, I'm rooting for the Pacers. I'm like, he kind of shrinks down, and
he missed that alley-oop.
He missed the alley-oop. That's when
a little bit of a confidence thing.
Yes.
I don't know. Someone's got to build him up, and it might be. Again, this is the take. This might be the take of the year. You had a good take.
Indiana wins.
If Indiana wins, the youth has popped up in weird ways, and one of them is like, hey, a veteran needs to pull Chet aside, Iguodala. Who is Iguodala yelling at? Remember, it's a famous clip.
Oh, I don't remember.
Wiggins, I think.
Okay.
He's like, come over here.
That's right. In 22.
Yes.
When Iguodala wasn't even really playing.
Get over here.
Yeah.
But Chet will shrink, and I think if he's cold, it'll start to snowball.
Here is, and this is, you guys are going to maybe get annoyed with me. I don't mean to. This is where the frame kills him. It is, I think, if his shot's not falling and he's not having success, and he is getting knocked sideways all the time, it doesn't breed confidence. And it is hard for him if a team is willing to really body him and he's not hitting his jumper, it's hard to get easy baskets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like those follow-up dunks.
Right, the follow-up, and that's where he's been honestly at his best. Rebounding, defense at times, and like putback. You know what I mean?
And that's where a guy like Chet, now granted, right now he's thin, and Wemby's got more than him as far as the post. But this is where a guy like Chet, as he continues to get stronger, if not bigger, add a post game.
Yeah.
So when your J is not falling, you can always go in. And here's the misnomer among players today. You can work on both. You can work on your threes and your post moves.
His little spin move on Siakam, I thought. I was like,
here's the question, because you may already have your answer on this. Because we saw this with Harden in his first finals, right? Struggled mightily.
Yeah.
And I was saying at the time, the last thing I'm worried about is James Harden. He's young. Yeah. This first finals, I get it. He was nervous or whatever, and it proved to be a pattern. Is this going to be a pattern for Chet in the big games, or is this just a young guy who's, that's where I lean. I don't know where you're at.
No, I don't think he's right. Harden, clearly there was something about the size of the games got to him. I'm not accusing Chet of that. What I am saying is, I think that we both have said that we thought the Thunder at their best, J-Dub's their third best player, Chet's their second best player. I do not think Chet's going to be better than Jalen Williams.
It doesn't look that way right now.
And now maybe it won't matter because that's because Jalen Williams has taken a leap further. Listen, Jalen Williams had the worst plus-minus in NBA Finals history. That's tough. Minus 40. Now, it's a little, minus
life
40.
Comes at you fast, I guess.
Shea had 8 turnovers.
Well, that was one of the most stunning stats I saw.
Yeah.
8 turnovers. That's a career high.
Let me show you the full stats. We have like a horror graphic for OKC of just how worst points, third fewest assists, most turnovers.
That's for their whole year.
Whole year. Regular and playoffs. Only made 8. That's their 4th worst. Faced second largest deficit all season.
And the assist number is way worse than that. Because they had 8 in the 4th quarter when it didn't matter. You know what? So maybe it's a nothing. Maybe it's a throw it out.
Maybe it's so bad it's throw it out.
But man, I'd be nervous.
Come on over.
Wow. Not official picks yet.
You clearly
can we do the
want
point
to.
spread one? Do we have time?
We do not have time. We have to get to most of the games.
We definitely have time. Remember, we're
Dusty
doing a weird
just said
clock
we got
today.
time.
We have plenty of time.
I have great news. I was just informed by my boss
Where
that
else
we
am I going to be able to talk about the 1978 finals?
Oh, goodness.
Great one. Washington.
Quick preview of Game 7 that we do have time for. Thunder favored by 7.5. Their last Game 7 at home that we talked about against Denver, they squeaked out a 32-point victory. So there is some precedent to a big point spread. But is this line disrespectful to Indiana? And do you have any of your own historical precedents?
Thank you for asking
to bring
me,
up?
Wilds. Here's the thing. There have been 8 of these since the merger. They are all close. And by close, I mean this. 6 of the 8 are a one-possession game with less than a minute left.
Wow.
The 2 that were not were a 4-point and 5-point game with less than a minute left. 2016, obviously tied with less than a minute left. Kyrie hits the shot. 2013, 2-point Heat lead. Duncan misses the little baby hook bunny, pounds the floor. LeBron hits the jumper over Kawhi. 2010, it is a 3-point game, and Ron Artest hits the ill-advised 3. But then it's a 2-point game, and with 10 seconds left, Sasha Vujacic is going to the line to ice the finals. 2005, it's a 4-point game at the 1-minute mark. 94, Akeem and Ewing. It is a 5-point game at the 1-minute mark. 1988, it was a final margin of 3 points after Isaiah sprained his ankle in game 6 of that series. 1984, it is a one-possession game with 1 minute left. And in 1978, it is a one-possession game at the 1-minute mark. So there are not Game 7 NBA Finals blowouts in the last 50 years. And so that now a couple of those, 1984, it ended up at 9 as the final margin. 05 and 13 ended up at 7 because of fouls and free throws or whatever. But history tells us with a minute left in this game, the game's going to be in the balance. And that, man, you feel like that leans in. That leans Indy.
Absolutely. And look, I didn't know all those numbers. What that tells you is when you get to a Game 7 in the finals, it's because the teams are evenly matched.
Yes.
That's what it tells you. I don't think this is disrespectful. Obviously, OKC should be favored. They're at home. They've been the better team the whole season. And 7.5 points is what it is. To what you said about the 84 series and the other one you mentioned, it could be 8 points and still be a close game. Like, especially with the three-point era. Like, back in the day when the three-pointer wasn't as big of a deal, a 6-point lead then was a lot bigger than it is now. Now it's 2 possessions. It used to be 3. And so it could be a really close game, and at the end, OKC ends up winning by 8 or 9, but it was a really good game. So I don't really think it's disrespectful, but I'm feeling good about the Pacers' chances. Like Nick said, if it's close, even though they blew Game 4, if it's close, they've been so good down the clutch for the whole season, and especially the playoffs, that you gotta and I think OKC will get tight.
Well,
if it's
I
that
don't know
close.
if there is such a thing as a team playing without pressure in a Game 7 of the finals. But if there is, it's this Pacers.
Yeah.
That's a great tip.
You know what I mean? A team where all of the pressure is on the other team, and the Pacers already are a celebrated team. And the Thunder know going into this, if we lose, this is a catastrophe.
Pacers 7-4 on the road this playoffs. Thunder 10-2 at home. So.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.